Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the AV Geeks podcast. Today I'm your host and my name's Martin. So it's been a sad week for us over in the UK. We've lost the Century from the RAF. So Ben, how you feeling?
Yes, I'm a little bit gutted, to be honest. I mean, it's an aircraft that's done 30 years of solid service for the Royal Air Force, and yet again, it is another airframe that's been retired with no immediate replacement. So we're now depending on probably the French and NATO forces in mainland Europe to do any surveillance for us, really, for the foreseeable future, until I think it's 2023 when the first of the wedge-tails appear in British skies. But it's I don't know why our armed forces and government seem to think, we'll chop something, and then not have an immediate replacement for a few months, a few years in this instance. So it is a shame. I'm hoping that they do something special. Maybe do a fly past or a final salute off to the B3, not just do a case of it's done its final mission. That's it. Get rid of it like they do with the Sentinel.
How many do you guys have in your fleet?
I think there was 3 left, fully operational.
Fully. They need to do a 3 1 by 1 by 1.
Yeah, it would
be only 2 are actually capable of flying.
Yeah, the other one's already been chopped up into pieces. I think one's destined. I think is it ZJ-103. I think it's destined for the States.
No, the one for the States is already out there.
Is it already out there?
It's been in storage out there for 7 or 8 years. Somewhere in Arizona that way.
Yeah, out of Davis Mountain. Yep.
But so there we go. So we've got 2. So it'd be a 2-ship fly past. Hopefully, it would be nice.
It's sad times, really.
Yeah, definitely. But we've had some good luck. We've had some air shows that we've managed to get to, and some little flying days courtesy of Duxford at the Imperial War Museum, which has been nice to see some warbirds in the skies and appreciate them for a bit, which is quite nice. And hopefully, fingers crossed, an air show next month in September at the beach. Be nice. Hopefully the weather holds. Yeah, hopefully the weather holds.
Absolutely. I know our AWACS fleet is like they're going strong still. So to see you guys losing them, and you guys have the re-engined platforms. We're still rocking the classic engines, the Screamers. Forgetting which engine model it is. But yeah, the AWACS fleet is like heavily relied on over here. So
yours has been upgraded though. So NATO, France, and the Americans all upgraded, whereas our government were like, nah, forget it, we don't need it. And then it's moved on like 20 blocks since we upgraded, and our airframes were too far gone, too long in the tooth, really.
So they're swapping them with wedge tails?
That's the plan, yeah. The first ones, we've got the first airframe is currently being refurbed. That was an ex-Air China Airlines. That's over in Birmingham. So it's supposed to come online in 2023, but we'll see about that.
Cool.
So I don't know.
A change of scenery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a shame to not see that nice big mushroom disc spinning around and flying around. We'll get it if we see the NATO one come in from Europe or the States. But otherwise it would just be nothing.
So with that, I'm going to introduce you to our guest for today. He's a weapons test engineer at Eglin Air Force Base. Hello, Jake. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Yeah, I can't moan. Ben?
Yeah, not bad. Apart from the traditional British weather. Apart from that, everything's gravy.
Yeah. No, everything's good here, and I'm excited to be on this. You guys are my first podcast that I've been asked to be a part of. So through all the technical difficulties and scheduling hurdles that we've jumped through in the past couple weeks, now this is awesome. Just being on here and being able to chat with the boys about aircraft and photography and all sorts of things. So appreciate you guys having me on here.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your job for a start?
Yeah. So I am based down in South Florida at Eglin Air Force Base. And so I'm a weapons test engineer for the Air Force. So pretty much what I do in a nutshell is anything that is being tested during developmental tests and sometimes operational tests for the warfighter comes through us here at Eglin. So we are the Air Force Armament Directorate here for the Department of Defense. So anything that's coming off of a jet that's hitting targets and is being developmentally tested, we are dealing with. So that's anything across the board. So, stuff that's been in like our inventory, and even, what you guys use on your fighter jet platforms and bomber platforms, JDAM legacy stuff, and AIM-9s, AIM-120s, AMRAAMs, all that stuff, along with the stuff that is new and not talked about as much to the general public. We get our hands on it, and we get to, I would say, almost like, so we start off by working with a program office, and they come to us with something that they want to build, they want to test, they want to upgrade, something like that. So what we do is we take it through the entire process, building a method of test, and how we integrate that into platforms, integrate that into the system upgrades on certain weapons. But all of it is focused on whatever the program office is wanting to do with that weapon, whether it's new, whether it's legacy, like a JDAM, like an AMRAAM. If they're making upgrades to it, we're the ones, testing it. So we get to take that, build a method to test how we're going to test certain things, and overall how we're going to achieve, end game parameters and all that stuff. So we take it through the entire circus of, planning out the tests, planning out the events, what platform we're going to operate off of. So, we do work with NATO allies as well. So we'll have, other countries come in and do testing with us, which is really neat. So we just recently had the Royal Australian Air Force last year come in with F-35s and do some stuff with us over our test ranges. So that was really neat. But we work with Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. I mean, you name it. Anything that needs to be tested or upgraded, they come to us and we make it happen. So we take it through that entire process, and then all the way up to when the items are finished being built, or when they're finished being upgraded and they're shipped in. Make sure that safety of flight and all that stuff is considered, and we have all of our documentation ready and approved by certain program offices for the aircraft, because they have to approve putting something on their jet platform. The weapon program office has to approve that, hey, this thing is actually ready to fly or ready to be dropped or anything like that. So there's a ton of different organizations that we work with here at Eglin. With my squadron, with the flight testing squadrons that own the aircraft here, but just the test wing in general. There is a ton of stuff going on all throughout the year. So it's neat to see all the different stakeholders that we get to play with, but also all the different programs and platforms we get to work with here at Eglin, but also just across the world. Anything that needs developmental testing, OT testing, it comes to Eglin. So it's pretty neat. And we have the climatic chamber. So a lot of stuff that, if Ford or Jeep needs a new vehicle and they want to test how it does in the snow or how it does in the sand, they can come right here to the McKinley lab, throw their new, Jeep Wrangler 392 V8 in there and test it on environments and stuff like that in there. So Eglin has a lot to offer just in the sense of testing, to where it's not just aircraft testing, weapons testing that occurs here. I mean, you got people that are coming in and making sure that their vehicles can survive a blizzard kind of deal. So it's cool. But yeah, so it's really neat to be a part of an awesome team here. The test wing and the Air Force is such a small world. As I'm sure if you guys have obviously through spotting, I'm sure met air crew and all that, and that so many people go to those overseas bases and want to go back multiple times. They loved it so much overseas, like myself. But it is such a small world, Air Force wise, that you have connections everywhere, and you know people everywhere stationed across the world. But everybody you will come in contact with at some point again, whether they're coming here for Eglin to do stuff with us again, and you haven't seen them in 2 years, or if you're going to another base, for TDY or going for a work trip, and you just so happen to run into someone that you knew from 3 years ago. It's really neat. So definitely a small world and a big family.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Definitely a wide varying job there.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us a bit about your photography, like where you started or how you got into it?
Yeah. So I have always had a huge passion for photography. My grandma got me into photography a little bit. I was one of those kids that was huge into like trains, planes, cars, dinosaurs, you name it. That kind of guy stuff when you're a kid.
Like most kids are.
Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, everything is like video games. Like my brother, who is I would say a generation younger in a sense, very much a totally different mindset and growing up differently and having different interests and whatnot. But my grandma and I would do little trips here and there. And I would have like one of the little Kodak reused or disposable cameras. So we would take pictures of the dinosaurs and stuff like that. So that initially started it off when I was a kid, but getting serious into like aviation photography, growing up an Air Force brat, my dad was Air Force. So, we moved all over the place every 2 or 3 years. And it was always unique just to see the different aircraft that we had at the different bases that we lived at. So, living at, he was in the med group. So a lot of the times we moved to bases where there weren't fighter jets. I wish there were. So I got the the Air Force Academy. It's the pretty much the starting point for anybody that's going into college, into the Air Force and then commissioning. I grew up at the Air Force Academy after moving. I was born in Alaska. So up there when my family was stationed up there, moved down to the academy and grew up at the academy. But we would see the Thunderbirds every time, the classes graduated. So we get the Thunderbird flyover every year. And then all the football games that they had for college football, they always had something cool for a flyover. So I vividly remember, I think my favorite one was I want to say it was the BYU Air Force game. And I had to be like 6 or 7, but it was vivid memory where the B-2 Stealth came over, and on either side they had an F-117 coming over the field. Wow. So that was, yeah. And now you look at it, and the F-117, doesn't fly, but
yeah, wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, it's such a unicorn now that seeing that thing is like the ultimate dream, and you didn't appreciate it at a young age where it was at air shows. It was, and I'm sure like other platforms like the Raptor, when those Raptors get retired, whenever that day is, I hope it's not in my lifetime because that's my favorite. Just the special, nuances of that platform you don't appreciate until it's gone. So similar to the AWACS that you guys are experiencing. So, but yeah, when it comes to photography, getting into that, and then it sort of progressed a little bit more going to air shows and stuff. I didn't necessarily have camera gear or anything like that. It just, technology, wasn't as accessible, I would say, with how good cameras are nowadays. And that's saying like, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. A lot has changed with just, mirrorless and all the new upgrades to camera systems. But I started getting back into photography. High school, it wasn't the cool thing until like Instagram came around. And so Instagram came around and I sort of got back into photography and taking pictures of my friends and all that stuff. But, once I got into college and started working for Signature Flight Support, I was actually a line service tech for my base here in the States, one of the bases that we had down here in the South. And so I was one of the military liaisons there. And we started a military operations support initiative where we were trying to get new platforms in that had never landed at our airport. And we had a pretty decent sized airport over in Mobile, Alabama. And, we could accept anything up to like a 747. Like Air Force One had landed there before, long before I had gotten there. But we had about a 9,000 foot runway. So we can accept a lot of different platforms. So that was, I think, the initial start back into photography was somehow getting our base onto signatures like Facebook and social media and showcasing what we were doing. So getting that interaction with the different units where we had a KC-135 for the first time land at our airport, grab gas from us. We had F-16 Red Tails, from Montgomery with the 187th come in for the first time, ripping it over the field. And everyone, in the city's like, what the hell's going on in Mobile? What's going on at the airport? Six ship of Legacy Hornets from the Marines, the Bengals and the Hawks came through. So it started a trend where we were starting to get a lot of activity and just being able to showcase that across the signature social media and show that, other bases can do this. It's just a matter of continuous support and reaching out to, installations and telling them, hey, we are here. We're, our main customers being so close to, the Navy training center for anybody going into F-18s for the Navy at NAS Pensacola, where the Blues are based. VT-86 was like our main customer. So we'd get the T-45s in, and it was like, all right, how can we expand upon that? And taking photos and videos through that, and many of the videos that I have on my Instagram have been from those moments where, I had two buddies that came in on their Finney flights, and they're like, all right, we're going to give you Top Gun style departures. And they're hooking it around the tower. The tower cleared them for 10 minutes of airspace, held the airlines down just to see what they were going to do. And so they ripped it around 6 passes around the tower. And nice. Just shy of breaking the sound barrier passes. So, but all of that, created a bunch of appreciation from the units that we worked with. And then it was just a matter of expanding upon that. And through that, built my photography and getting that out there on the social media pages and whatnot. And I would post a lot on my Instagram. And so that sort of kickstarted that. And then I invested in camera gear. I finally chose to invest in legit camera gear. So I did that when I moved over here in 2019. I got my Nikon set up, and nothing fancy, nothing, super crazy. I wish I had a D750. That'd be awesome. But hopefully upgrade to that in the near future. But yeah, that has been the kickstart to it. And then it just since moving here, I took that same mentality from Signature and was like, all right, how can I do this outside of Air Force life? Because I, work for the Air Force during the week. So how can I do this as a hobby, as a fun passion to continue that? And ultimately, my love for it is sharing, connecting, and giving, air crews and pilots photos of them doing the cool stuff. Like that's what we appreciate as photographers is those guys are ripping it in the air for us. Those guys are flying the Black Hawks and the helicopters and all that stuff. And they never get, typically they won't get pictures of them flying a lot of times unless it's at an air show or unless it's at an event or something like that. So being able to provide, them photos and give back to them is sort of what I've always done it for. And that's my enjoyment and fulfillment out of photography. And it led to so many neat opportunities, so many new connections and friends, and then just a growing social media page. In 2 years, I went from like 3,000 to 10,000, and it's insane because I never thought it would reach something like that. But, just the continued support by so many people, in the aviation and photography, community is so awesome to see how there's so many others like you guys and like the many others, that you've had on your show, who enjoy the same stuff. It's all about, photography and enjoying that aspect. And it's a hobby and sharing that with others. And, connecting with so many other people, especially the cool people like the air crew and pilots that are, and all the maintenance guys that are doing all the cool stuff. So it's been an awesome, fulfilling hobby, and it's turned into a small business now. So I definitely take away the business mentality of it. Doesn't feel like that at all. It's so much fun just to be able to do it all and still have fun with it. So
I mean, going back to what you were saying about giving the air crew the ability to see what they're like when they're flying. I've just recently had one, and a few of the guys have had one. We went up to the Lake District in the UK a couple of weeks back, and excuse me, we had a 3 ship of F-15s go through low level, and the first one happened to be the 48th Fighter Wings squadron commander for their operational conversion unit, and he reached out and said if I could have a print. I said, yeah, sure, I'll send you a print. And one print turned to 3. So it was one for myself, one for him for his office, and he sent one back to his folks back over in the States. And
absolutely
he signed it and gave a load of swag over, and he was like, it's amazing. Rarely get to see myself, flying in a jet. And he said he loves it. So I totally agree with you on side of things, that we get the enjoyment out of it, of getting to see these amazing machines ripping it, like you said, through the skies, or going low level, high level, doing this, doing that at air shows. And then the flip side is these guys that are going out there and doing this as training, as their job, then get to see what we see and enjoy it. And I think that's the best part. It's the most rewarding part.
And they don't do it all. They don't do it for, they can be such a long career, but then it stops at some point. Whereas photography can go on. It's like golf. You can play it until you die, which is why I love it too. But no, like you can do photography and to do it for such a long time after retirement, after a career, anything like that. So, giving back to those guys that, at some point it's going to stop. The Blue Angels are never going to be a Blue Angel again, unless, you have a crazy situation like the pandemic where we're pulling 3 previous Blue Angels back to help with the transition. So, it is all about that fulfillment of giving a different bird's eye view to those guys who they just see us on the side of a mountain and they're like, oh, there they are again. But versus, seeing it through the eye and the lens of the camera is pretty neat. So that's cool.
All right, we've got some listener questions.
Yeah.
So we've got one from Ant who says, what was your favorite moment shooting the Blue Angels?
Oh, that is so I get asked that a ton. So I will say it's got to be a culmination of the transition. So throughout the pandemic, that it was crazy to see how the team, we were as locals curious if the transition was going to be held off, just based off of the pandemic and all the impacts that it's had just nationwide, things shutting down. And, you wouldn't imagine that Boeing is still painting Super Hornets in blue and gold during a pandemic. But the DoD has a way to make it happen. So that was something that we were curious about. But when they sort of having some connections in with the team and the museum and stuff like that, we had a hint that, all right, the transition is happening. It's just a matter of when. And so when we got word a couple weeks prior to the Super Hornet, coming home for the first time and it being painted and everything like that in the blue and gold, seeing the final, I would say the Finney flight of the Legacy fleet doing their beach run over Pensacola. They did an entire full, just like Delta flyover over the city and over certain areas of the local area here on the Emerald Coast. From that point to when I saw the Super Hornet Delta formation and seeing the transition from Legacy Hornets, which we thought were loud, to the Super Hornets, which are 10 times louder, is just that whole time span of all the different unique moments, seeing the Super Hornet for the first time take off, capturing that next to a standard gray Navy fleet F-18 Super Hornet, but it had yellow lows, so the yellow tips on the wings. So you knew it was going to be painted as a Blue Angel at some point, but the gray fleet jet could, had smoke in it. So that flying along with Super Hornet 1 was just incredible to see, because you don't see that often. You don't see a fleet jet that has smoke on it.
No. Unless it's in serious issues, then no.
Yeah, exactly. So seeing that, and then even like through that, we didn't have Fat Albert, so the C-130 for the Blues, that has been like non-existent for the last 2 years, because we actually got one of the, I think it was a UK bird.
It was,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it
so,
was.
I can't remember the reg, but yeah, it was an ex-RAF bird. It went to Cape.
Yeah.
It was repainted.
Yeah.
Did a quick show of it, and then it hopped over the pond. So.
I think that's the closest we're going to get to Blue Angels for a long time.
Yeah.
They just, I don't know why, they don't want to visit Europe.
That was going to be one of my questions, actually. It was going to be, why have they never come over, and are they ever going to come over? I mean, we've had the Thunderbirds over here. We haven't had the Snowbirds over here, but the Blue Angels, one of the teams I'd love to see it in
Europe. I'm sure I Googled this. The last time they come over to Europe was 91 or 92.
I think so. They made, I think you're right. They made an appearance in Canada in 2017. Honestly, I would expect them to come to Europe. I think it sucks that the pandemic is like really putting a beating on everything again. But I couldn't not see them coming to Europe in the next 5 years easily.
So they never visited with the Hornets. They've never been to Europe with the Hornets.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah, the last time they were over here, they had Phantoms.
Oh, really?
So so it's an odd one, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole UK aviation community would probably agree that before COVID hit, when it was announced that I think it was this year's Fairford was going to be 50th anniversary, and it also coincided, I think was it last year's had the US Air Force's anniversary as well. As soon as that happened, everyone was thinking, right, they're going to have Raptors over, F-35s over, the Thunderbirds are going to come over, the Blue Angels are going to come over, and then it just went.
Yeah.
And we were gutted. So hopefully.
Terrible timing.
Yeah. Touch wood that 2022's Air Tattoo could potentially just blow up and be immense. 3 years worth of air shows that we've missed out on combined into one.
And even like Riot, like I would imagine that they have to make an appearance at some point. My thing is if the Thunderbirds have been able to do it, I wonder if it's a Air Force versus Navy thing, because the Air Force has more bases over in the UK and in Europe. I think in general, they have more installations, but the Blues land at Air Force places all the time. So it shouldn't be a matter of that. In fact, it's cool to see both of the teams interacting so much now, to where you expect the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds to get together at least once a year, at least. And they've already done it 4 times this year. So to see it stateside, I would imagine the Blues are making an appearance in Europe, I would say, in the next 5 years. Easily. They have to. It's come on.
Yeah, it's got it. So, I know the Thunderbirds can air to air refuel. Can the Blues air to air refuel? They still got that capability.
Yeah. Yep. So
flying over shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. Get them 2 tankers like they did for all the nationwide flyovers. Just get them 2 tankers and bring them all over. So they only have 7 aircraft that they would bring. I bet you they would bring 8 for backups. Yeah. I think they would bring 2 or 3 spares for the long haul. But, everything goes into the maintenance prep, making sure that everybody is ready to go overseas for, let's say, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You just don't know.
I'd probably say they'd do a European tour if they ever come over, like the Reds done in America a few years back.
Yeah.
Where they spent the whole summer out there.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the Blues would probably follow something quite similar to that sort of layout.
I would hope so. I mean, the Thunderbirds, do they typically only come over for 1 air show and then they come back?
Usually, yeah.
I think they've only done Fairford. I think they've only done Riyadh, and that was it. They went back state.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. If any of our listeners have got the proof that they've been over to other bases, and hit us in the comments. But I would hope they come to you guys soon. I mean,
The show is incredible to begin with the legacies. But the show with the supers is just, it's a totally different feel. And I think the one thing that I was, my favorite part of the show is the sneak pass. And so because so many people don't know it's coming, I was curious to see the change in volume between the Legacy and the Super Hornet. And the Super Hornet alone, just based off of its leading edge extensions, just by the canopy, and just how, it's a third of the size bigger. So you have bigger wings, you have bigger ailerons and flaperons. So the platform, the Super Hornet, creates more vape just naturally. And especially down here, because we're, like 90% humidity year round. It's perfect for us. But when they go like out to California for winter training, all the guys out there and photographers don't necessarily get to see all of the vapor that we get here on a standard, practice. So
yeah, we would definitely get it here in the UK because it's always got moisture in the air, whether it's or not. So yeah, we'd get vape all the time.
Yeah. You guys are like Seattle in the winter. Pretty much. But so the Super Hornet just vapes like crazy. So the sneak pass, when I saw the sneak pass for the first time, I was shocked at just like, I had no earplugs, no nothing. I don't wear earplugs for the air shows, no way. But for like, if I'm on, doing work, I'm literally around a running jet potentially. So I'm definitely got ear protection on. Wear ear protection, anybody that's listening. No, the Super Hornet is just, it provides a different dynamic to the air show. And their performance, and even just like the formation flight, seeing how big of a change it is in the like the Diamond 360, where it's their like showcase. They get 18 inches close in the Diamond as they're passing over show center. Because the Super Hornet is so much bigger, it looks bigger in the sky, and it's just a totally different feel. So that's why I like. It's so hard explaining it because, besides videos and stuff that you guys can see, until you experience it, it's like, it's a jaw dropping show. The MRT, the minimum radius turn for the lead solo, that is ridiculous. Just because the Super Hornet pumps out so much more thrust on that turn. And then the sneak pass just gets everybody still. It's so funny because you see everybody they're watching the Diamond come over way up high, and then they go by, and then all of a sudden, Baxter comes rolling through it at sound breaking, speeds, it seems. But and then Chewy behind it, everybody forgets there's another sneak pass from behind the crowd. So it's always cool. But I would say to answer that question, it was a culmination of seeing Fat Albert come home for the first time. The transition of the Legacy to Supers, and just seeing the entire change, and seeing old, ex bosses and Blue Angels come back to fill spots for this year, and then seeing them, perform at their first air show, and here locally, we haven't had an air show in Pensacola for 2 years. So to see them do all of their like American Freedom or America Strong flyovers and stuff with the Legacies and the Thunderbirds. Having them here locally in Pensacola was just incredible. So it's been a culmination of just a ton of events over the past year and a half, for sure. I can't limit it to just one. Oh, that's so tough.
It's a good answer. Ben, you got a question?
Yeah. So if you had a dream aircraft to shoot, what would it be and why?
SR-71 or the Concorde. Sadly, I was not alive to see either one of them. I would love to. The fact that like United Airlines has come out and said that they're planning on purchasing, like, I think it was like 14 to 30 or 14 to 18 of these almost like mimic, Concords coming up in the next 10 years. That's like hope to see something that was so similar. But that's, so technologically potentially advanced than the Concorde, which, the Concorde is just a feat. Like, I wish I could have seen that. I see photos and videos of that thing on YouTube. I'm like, just to see that thing take off, or even landing, with the Snoop Troop, that would just be, that would be so cool. But that, and then the SR-71, hearing the iconic stories, and the speed check story is one of my favorites. But also just the raw power of, I think the closest you can get to something like that and feeling it would be like a B1 and full afterburners at an air show. You just don't have anything that's to the general public, I would say, that can just reach those speeds. So the Blackbird would be so cool. And I would say lately, because the F-117 has made a grand appearance again at Red Flags, it seems. I'm definitely hoping to snag a red flag in the spring sometime and link up with a couple of buddies and hit the mountains for a couple of days. So,
oh mate, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I'd say Concorde and SR-71, those two are those stick out in my mind for sure.
Definitely. I think I've seen Concorde when it was on its final flight over my hometown in the UK. It went into Bristol, into Filton, where part of it was built back years and years ago. And that flew over the top of my school when I was must have been 13 years old, and just a glimpse of it going over, and the sound was incredible, and it was the only time I ever saw it fly. The next time I saw it, it was sat outside of Filton Hangars in Bristol, unfortunately, in the rain and the snow and all the conditions, getting absolutely trashed. But now, luckily, it's got its own hangar and it's being kept up really well.
Taken care of. Yeah.
Yes, definitely being taken care of now. Privileged to have seen that fly. I think Martin, you said you'd seen it.
So I'm pretty lucky. I live quite nearish to Heathrow, which was obviously BA's base. So sort of living memory, I can remember all the Concords being parked up after the Paris crash, because BA's service hangar is running to a main road, so you could drive past it and then you could see them all parked outside. Definitely seen it fly, but not that I can remember. And the same goes for the Blackbird. My dad's my dad took me to air shows when I was little. He's told me that I've seen it at like Mildenhall Air Fates, but I don't actually remember seeing it fly. Obviously, we're lucky enough that we've got one in a museum at Duxford.
Yeah.
A couple of hangers down from a Concorde as well. So
we get them both in the same spot.
Yeah. So we're quite spoilt in that respect. But that's some great choices there. Concorde's something different. Not everyone usually says Concorde.
Well, and I think from like a US perspective is, that was like the closest thing that you could get to supersonic flight. So even like, the passenger jets, I am not huge into commercial photography, aviation photography. I love flying, but I know my bread and butter and something that, I've always loved is military aviation. So I love the heritage birds and the color birds and all that stuff. But, the Concorde being just that, it is the iconic one of a kind until we get the next one. That just stands out in my mind. So that's such a cool platform.
Totally agree. So we got a question from LR.ZN Photography. What's one of the unique airplanes that you've worked on?
So here at Eglin, we have F-16, Cs and Ds, all different kinds of blocks too. So block 40, 50, 52. And then we have 15s, Cs, Es, and the EX, because we have the two EXs here, which that is so weird, but so cool, because it's like, it is a Strike Eagle that's painted up like a Legacy C model. So I'm sure if you guys have seen a couple of the posts that I've had of EX1 and 2, I got to see EX1 come in on its inaugural landing here at Eglin, and the first time that it actually flew away from St. Louis, Boeing St. Louis, to its new home. That was just awesome to see, and that was like right after work, so I snuck off the base and right at the end of the runway and snagged some shots, because they did a EX-EC trio flyover. They had a Viper photog. So my buddy who was in the Viper was taking aerial photography of it. The EX is definitely something that is really neat. I haven't been able to do any testing with it recently. It's still going through all of its like developmental testing, because it's technically like a brand new platform. So it won't until it starts getting pumped out to like the CAF and like guard units and whatnot, just depending on who actually gets selected for it. It'll be the testing aircraft here. So I hope to get to play with that one a little bit more. I would say at Signature, when I worked there, some of the coolest helicopters that we got in were the Shorebirds, so the Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the all black Chinooks. Those are so cool.
Nice.
They look.
So
I've seen a few photos of those, and
They look badass.
menacing. They look really
they're
menacing.
so cool. So they come in here into our local airport because we have Eglin on the north side of the bay, and then over here in Destin, we actually have Destin Executive Airport. So they will come in here probably like once or twice a month because they come in and they work with some of the Army special units guys here. At Eglin, we actually have a detachment of Army Special Forces. So they'll come in and do stuff, but they come to Destin and you can hear them chopping the air from miles away, like Hueys, like the Hueys coming. But those just all black Spec Ops Chinooks, they are just insane. So we would get those occasionally in at Signature. I've always loved the F-16. The red tails were definitely special just because we got the actual red tail heritage bird where it's the F-16 painted with the red tail like the Tuskegee Airmen. So that was neat working with. We had BMFA 312. I forget which one, but it's the Bengals out of Marine Air Station Beaufort over in South Carolina. They brought their CAG in, and the entire Legacy Hornet is painted like a tiger. So it has stripes all the way across the entire jet. And they kept the gray. I wish it was painted like, is it the Germans that have the tiger like Typhoon?
Yes.
The Bavarian.
Yeah. So I wish they had it like orange and black, but it was the standard gray and black, but they had stripes all over everything, including like the travel pods, the bags underneath the fuel tanks and such. So that was a neat one to see. I'm trying to think. I don't know if we had anything else super crazy that I've been able to like get up and touch.
Have you had any of the stealth aircraft in, like the B2s or the Raptors, F-35s?
So I've actually gotten to work with F-35s before, and they're a beast. The iconic name Fat Amy or the Battle Penguin suits the F-35 very well. It is just a beast of a jet. I have yet to see the B model. I've seen a Charlie and I've seen an Alpha because we got a bunch of Alphas here. We're the flight training unit here, the 33rd Fighter Wing here at Eglin. It's like anybody becoming an F-35 pilot, they have to come here. So we have the Alphas here, and I've seen the Charlie at an air show before, but the Bravo, the fact that like you guys have, Royal Air Force has the Bravo models. I think that thing is so cool because it is a Harrier-like, but it's an F-35. And the way that it actually does the same capability with hovering, to see the actual exhaust manifold rotate and turn down is ridiculous. But I have yet to see that in person. So
it's a cool sight.
I'm hoping to see that soon. Yeah. But no, the F-35 is a beast. It's something that I got to work with one of my weapons programs on. We did a fit check. So we tested to see if we could fit this particular weapon into its weapons bay. That was cool. But yeah, I mean, it's neat being here at Eglin. You get to work with so many things. I think the one thing I'm excited about is there's potential for some work to come down the pipeline in the next year or so, where we're working with the Italian Tornadoes. So that'll be really cool. That'll be really cool. So I have yet to see a tornado in person. You'll
love it. But when you feel the burners in your chest,
you'll fall in love.
You'll love it.
Fall in love.
Actually, to actually work with them would be really cool. So that would be neat just to capture them and see them in person. And witness just, it is a dying fleet. It really is. But that's something I'm excited about. And then I get to do some stuff coming up with B1. So the bone is always a treat.
Nice.
It's a smorgasbord. It's
Lucky
just, you
guy.
never know what you're going to work with. And that's just for work.
It's all right for some. It must be a hard day job, eh? I mean, someone's got to do it.
Yeah. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig. No, I will say the one thing with the pandemic is it's been so unique because, typically our job is in the office or doing stuff on the flight line. So to be teleworking, because, a lot of this stuff, especially down here, because we're such a tourist attraction where people don't want to wear masks and all that stuff. When all of this started, they had us teleworking. So if we weren't actually like executing test missions or like doing mission planning with the aircraft, with the aircrew and stuff, we weren't on base. So they limited the base to like, mission essential personnel. All right, if you're going in to do legit stuff on base, cool. If you can do it at home, do it at home. So we teleworked for, I want to say like 10 months. And throughout that, I needed to go in and actually like execute test missions off of jets. So I would do that, but you'd be in there for like 2 days and then you'd be back home. Versus like when I got here, it's a normal job. You're in the office on the base, and you come home at the end of the day, whether you're testing or not. So we got back into that from April to like last week, and we're having another surge just in the United States, as I'm sure you guys are seeing, to where they have pumped it out to where we're back to telework when we can. So it's cool because like on a lunch break, if I got anything that's like right down the street at the airport, I just swing by, say hey to a couple of buddies that work at the FBO down there, because they practically see me. They're like, anytime we get something military in here, we're expecting to see you at some point. So the owners and a lot of the graybeards and even like the line techs and stuff, and the tower, even like the ATC controllers, they know us. They know me and Ash. So we pretty much have a free reign of wherever we need to go on the ramp to shoot photos and whatnot, getting right up next to the taxiway. So there is anything that comes in, and I have a lunch break that I can quickly go take, like the Hueys. I can go snag some shots and then come back an hour later. So it's not too shabby.
That sounds like a really tough day at the office, that does.
Yeah.
It does. So I've got one final question here. This is from Andrew. What was your first experience with the F-22 like?
So first experience with the F-22, photography related or just
either, whatever comes to mind.
So I first saw the F-22 fly over the academy. We were living there. They had an F-22 two-ship come over for one of the flyovers, and that it's like the Eagle in the sense that you have that unique howl to it. Like the Raptor has a unique howl to it. When it accelerates, you hear like a different toned whine in the engines. But seeing that for the first time, and then honestly, I got to see the Raptor demo for the first time in 2019. Ash and I went up to Moody Air Force Base up in Georgia, about 4 hours up the way. And a buddy of mine he used to fly A-10s up there. So we went and saw him, and the Raptor demo and the A-10 demo were performing along with the Blues there for that weekend. So that was when Paul, or Lieutenant Colonel Lopez was flying it. And so to see the Raptor demo for the first time was just jaw-dropping. I wasn't aware of their routine, so I didn't do any research prior to it. I was just like, all right, we're just going. So I didn't know where the passes were coming from, didn't know what was coming at what time. So when he did his low transition takeoff and then, goes vertical, which the Raptors that we have here at Eglin do that all the time. And we have to like pause our meetings because they're taking off and you can't hear anything. My office is like right at the end of the runway. So there's moments where anything taking off, it's like, all right, hold on 1 sec. All right, the jets are done taking off. And he had like a 6-ship of Raptors blast. And I'm like, all right, I'm trying to do work. But the Raptor demo was insane. That was I would say the first time that I could legitimately feel raw power from an aircraft in my chest. When it comes by center stage, and then it does a hard 90 degrees and banks away from from the crowd, full afterburner. It was just like, it was like pressured, like, oh my God, what is this? That was so awesome. That was ridiculous. Didn't take any photos or videos that day, sadly, but that experience was just so awesome. But did that, and then I've gotten to do a ton of class photos and graduation photos with the 43rd Fighter Squadron. So 2017, when Tyndall Air Force Base got hit with Hurricane Michael, all of their Raptor fleet came over to Eglin, and they've been based at Eglin since. And I'm sure at some point there's some consolidation plan going on to where they're going to all get consolidated at Langley, where the first fighter wing is, and then disperse, to Alaska and to Hawaii, because there really is only 3 select locations for the Raptor. But we get the Raptors here, and we've had them here for years now. And so the 43rd is their FTU, so their flying training unit, where anybody going to be a Raptor pilot comes here, and they'll go through, they did their T-38 training, they do their sim training. And it's similar to, if I'm not mistaken, it's similar to the F-35 guys, where their first flight in the jet is legitimately the first time that they're in the jet. Like they go through sims the whole time, and then they go and fly the jet. So it's not like you're flying backseat in an F-16 and you can do controls or, get familiar with the cockpit. You're doing sim the whole time before you actually. So your first flight is like, all right, I'm actually flying this thing going up in the jet. So it's cool to see that dynamic of those 2 platforms, because they don't have any 2-seaters. They're both single-seaters. So I've gotten to work with the 43rd a bunch. I did, during the pandemic, I did a couple of squadron photo shoots where we had to I had to make sure that all of them were 6 feet apart in front of the jet for the group photo. And we called it the social distancing edition, which that was cool. Just that was my first time being able to, that was like a check off the bucket list. That photo you guys shared on your story this morning with the questions, that was that first day where just to be around the jet up close, have buddies that flew it that gave me this opportunity. The squadron commander gave me approval to take photos of them and, go out there and do that. Was really neat. So I've gotten to do that a couple of times now, and I'm trying to do that with the few remaining classes that we have before they expedite the Raptors out of here, which will be one heartbreaking day. But the Raptors are always just so cool to see fly, and here especially because they're so much bigger. It's like when you compare an F-16 to an F-15, it's like, is this a joke? The size comparison of the 16 to the 15, they may fly the same engines, but for the F-15, I had this in a test mission a couple weeks ago. It was like, if you have an F-15, you have 2 chances to start your engines, and the 16 you only got 1. If it doesn't start, you're screwed. So it's funny to see the size comparison, because you look at the 35 and the Raptor, and they have similar characteristics and similar forms and features and whatnot, but the Raptor is dominant air superiority, and it is that to a T, versus the F-35. You can say it's air superior, but put the Raptor in middle power and full afterburners and good luck. So no, I love the Raptor. That's my favorite jet, and
it is a special aircraft.
It is one of those. It's very similar to the F-117 in that, I feel like it won't be appreciated as much until it's gone. I think it is more appreciated because there's only so few that were made, and I think there's like 192 left. But I'm sure they will slowly start consolidating those. I saw that they're planning on keeping it around primarily for upgrades to the NGAD, which is like the next generation air dominance fighter. 6th gen is pretty much what it is. So they're probably going to keep the Raptor around for familiarization upgrades and stuff like that in support of the NGAD. So when that 6th gen comes out, that's going to be ridiculous. None of us know what it looked like. None of us know anything about it. Even just internally, it's like,
I'm sure I read that Lockheed have already flown a demonstrator version for the 6th Gen already.
Yeah. Yep.
We're not going to see it for another 10, 15 or years yet.
Considering the 35 program started in the 90s, and it didn't officially like make its debut until the early 2000s, and then it was like actually being in production in like 2012. It goes to show you that it could take like 22 years to get something up and running. But if they've been working on this for so long, let's say they've already been working on it for 10, 15 years since the Raptor stopped production, they could be a lot closer to it. They could be a lot further to it. We just don't know. So it's like the B-21. When is that going to show?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it was cool meeting Sam Ekholm at the Moody Air Show. I got to meet him.
He's such a good photographer.
He is an awesome dude. It's cool to see him, his drastic change too, from like Raptor demo to Scott Air Force Base. Public affairs, it is like he says in his videos, it is a career in the Air Force. Public affairs is a career. I feel like public affairs can sometimes, be underappreciated, especially when you have people like Sam that really, really get what public affairs is all about. But he is just an incredible photographer. Him, along with even like the Alexander with the F-35 demo, forgetting his last name, but he was the 35 demo PA photographer for 2 years. I think it was 2018, 2019. He was awesome. Him and Sam were like just spot on with that stuff. And it's cool to see even the newer photographers that are taking that PA role on for the demo teams, like Kip and Thomas Barley. They are awesome guys that are getting the hang of it, because you get thrown into that mix where it's like, all right, have you ever used a camera before? Have you ever shot jets before? Well, get used to it, because that's your job for the next 2 years. Which I know they're not complaining at all, but it is a learning curve, just for example, like here at Eglin, our aerial photogs all come from videography backgrounds. So they're learning how to shoot photos with a camera versus high-speed video and videography. So when we ask for like air-to-air photos of things, they've had to practice shooting photography because they're so used to a videography background. So seeing that, a lot of these guys are able to do both. It's really neat to see that learning curve just be like gone instantly. Like just give them a few weeks, learn the camera. It's no different than any of us grabbing a camera for the first time and not knowing what the hell we're doing with it. How to shoot in manual, something that I've just finally gotten used to doing in certain settings, and not relying on shutter or aperture priority. But seeing those guys just take on the demonstration PA has been really neat. So yeah, it's cool because there's so many of us out there, and those guys are just like us. They love it, but they get to do it for a career. Pretty neat.
Lucky guys. So have you got any questions for us?
Yeah. So I would say, what got you guys into photography? And being that you guys started your page and AvgeeksAssemble and all that stuff, what was the mentality wanting to do a podcast?
I'll let you go first, Ben.
So me with photography and aviation really stemmed from being in the cadets. I was in the Air Cadets in the UK. I was in there for just shy of 10 years. So we got to do stuff like Fairford. We were the other side of the fence per se. So we get early access. It was an amazing experience. I've got a story I've told the guys before, and they probably all heard it to death. But there was one year when we were there when the Raptor demo team came over for, I think it was the second year running, and we were in control of this little section where the aircrew came in to sign in, get their luggage checked in, and then go told where they were staying. We were told that they had to have 2 certain passes to come in, and if they didn't have one or the other, they weren't allowed in. So I'm a cadet sergeant at this point. So really, all these guys are high up ranked officers, well above me. And the Raptor team pull up in a minibus 5 of them jump out, black suit with F-22 demo team wearing it. They're absolutely amazing. I'm like 15, 16 years old at this time, as skinny as a rake. And they come over, they all show the passes. And the last one to come along is the pilot himself, the display team pilot. And he only has one pass. And in that split second, I'm there going, you can't come in. Because you do know who I am, don't you? Yes, I appreciate who you are. I said, but I've been told by lots of people over there you're not allowed in unless you've got the pass. And he walked off. And about 10 minutes later, came back with his pass. And he said, open your hand. I moved my hand. I haven't got it on me to hand, but I'll get a picture of it and get it put in for the video podcast. But he gave me an F-22 Raptor challenge coin.
Nice.
I've still got it since, and stuff like that, getting unlimited access to the aircraft, going inside B1s, the Vulcan, the 52, where the public couldn't get into, we were in. And yeah, it was immense. We did airbase tours. There was chances if you had it financially, you could do international exchanges. So there'd be 6 of us that had come from the UK and go over to the States or to Canada, and then there'd be another 6 that had come over, and we'd do a transfer like that. I personally never done it, but I know a couple of people did. And they said it was incredible. They had the same experience as what we did, but over there. So yeah, and that's what pulled me into aviation. And then photography came about, say about 5 years ago, seriously 2 years ago. I just love it.
It's like you start seeing it. You're like, man, I'm watching this. It looks great, but let me start doing something with it. I just keep watching the same thing over.
Yeah.
Let me capture some images,
And
let me do something productive.
Yeah, definitely. And it was going through like reading magazines like Air Force Monthly, Aeroplane, and all of that in the UK. And then starting to see it trickle onto social media, and it was like, I want to get that shot. I want to be able to take that photo. Some of them I've been able to tick off of my bucket list. One I'll be doing in a couple of months. But yeah, I love it. It is it's a thrill. And to quote a certain other photographer, it's the relentless pursuit of aviation.
Challenge. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
I love the challenge.
Yeah,
so and that's what I look for all the time. It's like, all right, what's a shot that if I'm doing, Lord knows how many times I've seen the Blue Angels over and over and over again. Now that obviously is not something that you guys appreciate, but you see the same thing like the Thunderbirds or the Raptor demo. Let's say you see it 10 times and you're like, all right, how in the hell can I get a different shot? Otherwise I'm like taking the same photo over and over and over again. So like, that's what I look for. And that's what I try to showcase on my page is, I'm trying to put shots out there that either a lot of people aren't necessarily shooting for, like all right, I'm going to shoot when Blue Angel 5 goes inverted and 6 is next to it and they're doing the double farvel, trying to get, all right, let's get the pilot next to the landing gear just for a size comparison, like something like that. Like I'm looking for angles and stuff like that, or like the MRT where it's just strictly the afterburners and the entire airframe body. Looking for that relentless challenge is what it's all about. I love that. So that's cool. That is super cool.
Like you said, it's capturing those shots, like you said, that you don't really ever see. I mean, a lot of people go in for the close nitty-gritty detail, want to get every single rivet, but then there are other people out there that want to get the landscape, the clouds, and then have the jet or even like a Spitfire or something like banking into the clouds. It's just it's a constant game changer. You're constantly trying to up yourself and top yourself on your images that you capture. So yeah, that's what enjoys me, definitely.
And speaking of the Vulcan, what is that thing like?
So earlier on you mentioned about the Raptor, its unique howl. The Vulcan had its own unique howl as well. And when you heard that thing sitting at the end of the runway just idling, and then they put the throttle up to full power, held it on the brakes, let go, and you just got this almighty howl. It was breathtaking.
And then you see this big delta wing being chucked around the sky that's doing tighter turns.
Insane looking.
Just seeing it like go up and then bank almost onto its top and then level off was it was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
is that strictly like, so was the Vulcan, because I've only recently seen that probably in the last few years to where it's like looking at it and learning a little bit more about it. But has that always been like part of the Royal Air Force's fleet? Like, did they actually use those during like wartime efforts, or was it strictly for air shows and stuff like that?
It was part of the V Force. So we had three nuclear capable bombers from the late 50s. We had the Valiant, the Victor, and the Vulcan. The Valiant was sort of like an interim, sort of B-47 kind of level of technology. And then along come the Vulcan and the Valiant, the Victor. And then they went through their careers. And then only the Vulcan, Valiant dropped bombs in the Suez Crisis. But then the Vulcan got involved in the Falklands, 1982. So yeah, that held the longest flight for a bombing mission till the B-2s dropped stuff on Iraq.
Yeah.
But yeah, towards the end of the career, they become air refuelers. They got repurposed, and the Victors saw service in Gulf War One, and then
then they all phased out, and then it was just the one singular Vulcan that was flying. There was a Victor that did fast taxi runs. They'd sit at the end of the runway, blast it till so far, and then cut all power, throw out the chute, hit the brakes. Unfortunately, the airfield that it was based at has now turned into a car park. And she, I think, if I'm right, mind, then correct me if I am. I think she is awaiting the cutter's torch.
She's going to be part of the museum at Brunty, but the Victor at Yorkshire Aviation Museum that does engine runs as well. So there is a possibility.
They did their final flights and everything.
Yeah, we'll never see one of them fly again, or a Vulcan.
Seeing the Vulcan fly it was incredible. I even had it. We used to have doing again COVID sort of teeth for that. We had an air show down here, which is a beachfront air show. Nothing on the scale of Pensacola at all.
Hey, we don't even get like Air Force demonstrations. For some reason, will never come to our Pensacola Beach Air Show.
Really?
It's wild because they go to like Huntington Beach, they'll go to Stewart, Florida, they'll do all the beach shows in Florida and on the West Coast. I don't think we've had like a Viper demo, an A-10 demo, 22, nothing. It's always just, and I don't know if they tailor that because it is the Pensacola home beach air show. It's the Blue Angels kind of deal. But like you would even think maybe like the Growler demo or like the Super Hornet demo, like the Gladiators would come and do a beach air show. Nope.
Wow.
It's always a homecoming that they got to do it. So.
Well, then there we go. Then I'll retract my statement. But yeah, we had the Vulcan come to Weston for one of its final shows. And that thing was just incredible to see it flying over a beach. Around about 500 feet, 600 feet, and turning and howling away with the bomb bay doors open into the sun was just incredible, absolutely incredible. But it was unfortunate; it was just before I started getting serious into the photography, so there's no real decent photos of it. But the memories are up there, which is all that matters. And yeah, it was incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So I would say with that, it's over. So I want to thank our guest, Jake, for visiting us. And before we go, we'll get each of your Instagram tags. We'll start with you, Ben.
Mine's on Twitter now as well. I just started a little Twitter page. Yes, I know. Stepping into this big bad world. So mine's Ben-Aviation Photography.
What about yours, Jake?
Go ahead. So mine is Warye, WARYE _33, and a period, and then photography. If you type my last name in, I'm practically the only one on there. I don't think anybody else has my last name. So besides family. But yeah, you'll see a Raptor logo and my logo with the patch that I and design that I created. But I appreciate you guys, allowing me to come on here. I think just being able to shoot the shit with you guys and chat aviation and regardless of time zones, regardless of where you guys are at. This is so cool. I really appreciate it, and it's always a blast just being able to talk aircraft with other guys that know what they're talking about, love it, have a passion for it, and just the aviation community hopefully is continuing to grow. And you guys have obviously done a fantastic job with the outreach that your page has, and just how many supporters that you guys have of podcast and photography, and all the many different members of AV Geeks is really neat to see. So absolute pleasure being on here with you guys.
We definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your life stories and everything else with us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hit me up if you guys want to do it again. I'm always down to chat. And gonna say for future, I know homecoming coming up. I'm trying to work with the Raptor demo for a day in the life from behind the scenes. So hopefully, if it's not before or maybe after that, we can definitely link up again and just provide a bunch of new stuff to chat about for sure. So always down
awesome
for updates and hearing from you guys.
We'll definitely look into that. Right, awesome. So thank you everyone, and take care and see you soon.